Good day, everybody. Thank you for coming. I am so honored to be with you. I knew a guy who was depressed for many years, and over time, he found some methods to work his way out of it. He became a much healthier person. And in the process, he developed some techniques that he wanted to share with people. And he wrote a book, and he offered seminars, and he became fairly successful. He was actually helping a lot of people. And I went to a couple of his programs over several years. And I noticed that he gave the same program every time about how depressed he had been and how he worked his way out of it. And I thought to myself, boy, if that was me, I'd get depressed giving the same story of depression over years and years and years. And I said to him, it's a really good program and a really good lecture, but are you enjoying it to the maximum? He said, well, no. I said, is there something else you'd rather be talking about? He told me another subject. I said, well, why not branch out and become who you are now instead of going over and over and over and over who you were? And I asked him point blank, do you really want to be remembered as the depression guy? And he said, no. I said, well, talk about something that's more interesting to you now. You can still talk about depression, but at the same time, let it be on the cutting edge, the leading edge of who you've become, not who you were. So there comes a point in each of our lives when we want to evaluate the identities and labels we've taken on. And if they match us, okay, but if not, it's time to peel them away and release any limiting identities that you have bought into. Now, I know a woman who was involved for a while in a cult, and there were some pretty dark aspects of the cult. And it was kind of traumatic for her. And finally, she mustered the courage to leave. And her life really blossomed and opened up. But she maintained this identity as a cult survivor. And a lot of her social media presentations were about, I'm the person who was in this cult and I left it. And finally, she got tired of being the cult person. And she thought, well, I don't want to define myself as a cult survivor for the rest of my life. So she went into all of her social media, especially Facebook, and she deleted every reference that she had made to her being in this cult and leaving it. And I thought that was a bold move. What she was saying was, I may have been that person at one point, but I'm not that person now. So why make a statement to the world that that's who I was or am? We don't want to deny our past. We don't want to run away from it. But we also don't want to be trapped by it. Someone said that a rut is a grave with the ends knocked out. I coached another woman whose husband had passed on several years earlier. And as she was speaking, I felt such a muted energy from her. She wore dark clothes and she didn't go out and didn't wear much makeup. And I said to her, it's almost as if you're walking around with this big sign on your forehead that says widow. I said, I understand. I'm not downplaying the sorrow of losing your beloved mate. That had to be really hard. But is that who you want to be for the rest of your life? And she said, no. And she began to dress up and put makeup on, and she would go out. And she ended up meeting a wonderful man. And they were married, and she has a whole lovely new life. So she's not denying her old life, but she's honoring it as a stepping stone to who she's become. And she's now celebrating who she is rather than who she was. George Bernard Shaw said it most eloquently. He said, the only man who behaved sensibly was my tailor. He took my measure anew every time he saw me, whilst all the rest went on with their old measurements. and expected them to fit me. A good one, isn't it? And we have old measurements. I used to be this, I did that, I lived in that place, I had that profession, I was married to that person. Well, is it really relevant now? And if it is, fine. But why would you carry around this baggage? I remember I hit a certain milestone birthday. I thought, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I realized that I could either carry with me, it was almost as if all my past years were like train cars. And I was carrying around scores and scores of train cars. I thought, what if I just release them? And what if I would just let them slide back on the hill and I would head up the hill as the engine, not the person who was carrying all these train cars, most of which were not really appropriate anymore. And so we have to be very, very diligent and vigilant about what we complete the sentence I am with. Those are the most powerful words we will ever speak, I am. And if you say, I'm sick, I'm tired, I'm old, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm divorced, I'm unattractive, every time you say that I am and fill it in with a negative or limiting word or sentence, you reinforce that experience in your life. And you can actually program other people to see you like that because you're so intent, and I'm that person who went through a bad marriage and had a hard divorce, that now every time they see you, they think, well, there's that person who went through a bad marriage and had a hard divorce. Do you really want them to think about you? Now, if you need to work through that, fine. But after a while, enough is enough. And when you go out with somebody on your first date, please don't tell them about why your marriage has failed. It may not be relevant. Maybe when you get to know them more, but don't program your new relationship as a carryover from the last one. What makes you think the new one has anything to do with the last one? And I often coach people who've gotten a divorce and they're ready to get into a new relationship. And I ask them, and this is usually years after they've been divorced, 3, 4, 10 years after they've been divorced. And I ask them, they say, well, I'm afraid that if I get into a new relationship, I will repeat the old one. I say, okay, got it. And I ask them a few questions. Are you the same person who married that person years ago? Oh, no. Are you the same person you were when you divorced? Oh, no. I grew from that divorce. Would you make the same mistakes again? Oh, no, because I have been there, done that. So I asked them, why, if you're a new person now, and you're not the same person who married that person and went through that marriage, why would you assume you're going to do the same thing? And they like that, because no one wants to be stuck in who they were. And the fact is, you're not stuck in who you are, except in your mind. Of course, mind is everything. We walk in the atmosphere of our believing. I'll tell you a kind of funny story. People like to label us. When we go out with our dogs, people would say, "Oh, what kind of dogs are they?" Standard questions. What kind of dog? When I had my little dog Munchie, what kind of dog is that? Oh, how old is he? What's his name? They would ask the 3 or 4 standard questions. So I had these little business cards made up with Munchie's picture on it. And he said, hi, my name is Munchie. I'm 7 years old. I'm a Pomeranian. And I would just give them the business cards. You don't have to answer all the same questions, because there's something about the human mind, the intellect, the ego, actually, that has to fit everything into a box. And somehow you feel you can control your world. Why would anybody possibly care about how old my dog is? Is it really relevant? Does it have anything to do with the interaction you're having with them now? Why is it important? But we think in terms of age and gender and race and culture and religion, box. And then we wonder why we feel pigeonholed and limited and small and inept. So I knew a guy. He told me about his roommate, and they had a fight about something. And he told me, "Oh, my roommate, he's psychopathic because I took a course in college, and he matches psychopathic tendencies." Oh, really, really? And then a couple of weeks later, I saw this guy. And he said, "Oh, my roommate, he helped me move some furniture list." I don't think he's psychopathic. I think he's just neurotic. So, so because this other guy did his roommate a favor, his diagnosis was downgraded from, from a psychopath to a neurotic. So because when he didn't like him, he was a psychopath, but now that he liked him, he was just neurotic. So you see the crazy games we play, the labeling games. And, we label people by their diseases. Oh, he has this disease, she has that disease. And the minute you see this person, you think disease, disease, disease. And you're not serving that person. They say, well, how's your disease going? You name the disease. And you maybe have good intentions. You may want to help the person. But the minute you see them and you think of this disease, you are now stuffing them into a box. There was a book called Love It, Don't Label It. Love it, don't label it. And in a way, it's really true because labels are really not acts of love for the most part. I understand why we need to label things, and it really helps to have organizations and classification. There's certainly a place for that in the world. I'm not denying that there's certain value to it. But after a certain point, labels deny love, because if you're seeing the person as a diseased or limited or evil person, you've allowed blinders to fall over your eyes, scales that are impeding your vision of the true person. And the only true vision of another person is the light. If you see them as a divine being, if you see them as an angelic soul, being of godly light, a Holy Spirit, an expression of God, that's the only true vision. And, those don't have labels. You say, God, well, it's a big, very big label. But, there's so much more to us than any label we've ever been given. And so take a moment and think about the names you were called. Fat, black, maybe they called you a pejorative name for being a black, or they attach some nasty attribute to being a woman. You had a nickname, or kids put you down and made fun of you or bullied you. And those labels tend to stick with us because they poke at us at a very sensitive emotional place. But when you think about it, none of them really apply, especially if they were pejorative, especially if they were demeaning. Because the Course in Miracles tells us that only the attributes of God are true about you. If it's true about God, it's true about you. If it's not true about God, it's not true about you. And so when you sit and you affirm and pray and meditate, and you say, I am love. Well, it's kind of a label, but love is so expansive that it's a label that takes you beyond labels. I am joy. Well, joy breaks beyond labels, doesn't it? I am whole. I am not broken up by anything. I have no gaps. I am energy. I am light. Now, those are kind of labels, but they're not pejorative labels. They're expansive, healing. They're labels that help you go beyond labels. And of course, at some point, all labels just merge into light. All the godly labels merge into wholeness and light. And when you say, I am God, that's probably the truest thing you could say. It doesn't mean you're the only God, because when you say, I am God, you must realize that everybody else is God too. So we're all gods walking the earth that have done like paper mache. Remember paper mache? You take a balloon or something and put little strips of paper over it, and then it would harden and it would make a face. Well, that's exactly what's happened to all of us. We came in as the divine light, an expansive being, and then we had this little paper mache strip put over us, and after a while we started to believe we were the paper mache strips in the mold instead of the light that we are. So the spiritual path is about undoing. It's about peeling away that which is not us so we can reveal that which is us. It's the spiritual path is the great undoer. The great undoer. So let's go out this week and have some fun. Let's return to our original innocence, shall we? Let's be who we were before we bought false labels. Let's be like George Bernard Shaw's Taylor, who measures ourselves anew with each new day instead of using the measurements that someone took of us 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And once again, as a reminder, our next life coach training is starting in January. We have a couple spots left if you want to jump in. This is a very deep and profound and transformative program that will certify you as a professional life coach. You can coach full-time, part-time, make a lot of money at it, do it for free, whatever you like. And it's based on metaphysical spiritual principles. There's a lot of Course in Miracles in it. It's extremely healing for the coaches as well as for the clients. So go to my website, alancohen.com, and we'd love to see you starting January 1st, 2021. We'll set off on a journey that will change your life as you change the lives of others. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you immensely, and we'll see you next week.